Hi, welcome to Truth and Mysteries. Today we're talking with Luz Howse, my lovely wife. She has been a vegetarian for over 20 years, and today we're going to talk a little bit about that. How are you doing, Luz?
Amazing. How are you?
Doing good. So, why are you a vegetarian?
Oh, that's a good question. I've gotten that question so many times in the last couple decades. And at first I didn't know how to answer it because it seemed like there's a lot of reasons why, but I remember the exact moment we're eating the same thing over and over. It was summer school and I was like 16. And one day I just had this realization that I was eating this dead creature. It was a ham sandwich, I think. And I didn't know any vegetarians at the time. And right after I had that realization, I went on the internet and I did some research and found out that the sandwich that I was eating was once a living, breathing animal. And I didn't want to contribute to the suffering that the animal had to go through to make it into my sandwich. So that's the main reason I became a vegetarian.
Okay, cool. So, mostly for the animals is your reason.
Yeah, that was the initial reason. It's still like the main reason I'm a vegetarian. But along the way, most people that are vegetarian and vegan. I think if it initially started for the animals, they've seen like the benefits of it health wise of being a vegetarian.
So, it's a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, not just physically either, and mentally. Like I feel a lot better morally by not eating animals, but I also feel better physically, I think, by not eating animals.
So, it's good for your body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about some philosophers and scientists and spiritual thinkers that are pretty famous that were vegetarian. What were some of
Yeah.
those?
Let's see. There's like Plato, and I didn't know that Einstein apparently was a vegetarian, and who else was like Gandhi. That's more modern, the ones that I can remember. Da Vinci, did I mention him? And it makes sense. Like if you're like thinking about things, like thinking about every aspect of life, you're gonna come across like what you are doing every day, which is putting food in your mouth and how it affects you and how it affects other creatures, people. So it makes sense that there'd be vegetarian philosophers and great thinkers.
Yeah, another interesting one, Rudolf Steiner was
Oh
vegetarian.
yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's so many. I think like once you start like diving in and like researching and with these like great thinkers, you find that they were vegetarian, which I think is cool.
Yeah. So vegetarianism is it's good for our health, and it's good for us spiritually because we're not killing other beings just to eat, right? And I guess we could also go into how it's good for the environment and for the planet.
Oh yeah, totally. What is it like? It takes like how many gallons of water just to create like process a pound of beef? It's like, I don't know, 2,500 gallons of water. That's
Yeah, I don't
crazy.
remember, but it's water and fuel and topsoil and grain, a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Whereas we could just take that grain and feed people with it, and then you can feed a lot more people instead of 1 pound of hamburger. But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it could feed a lot more people and it doesn't have this negative impact on the environment that the livestock has. And it tastes good. So you're not missing out on anything by eating some beans.
What was that quote from Einstein you were reading earlier?
What did he say? He said, vegetarian food leaves an impression on our nature. If the whole world adopts vegetarianism, it can change the destiny of humankind. That's not the one I I read earlier. That's another one. That's cool. He must have been talking about vegetarianism a lot, or at least a couple of times now that I looked it up.
Yeah, can you even imagine the impacts that would have if everyone was vegetarian? I feel like people would be
Gee,
more peaceful. We wouldn't be like killing animals. People would be healthier. Life would be better for everyone if people adopted a like a plant-based diet.
yeah, exactly. Like the energy also that comes from eating meat, I think has a really negative impact on us spiritually. Because just like anything, like water or blood or anything, I think the energy from that creature like gets carried on into like the person that eats it or drinks it, like that awesome Japanese scientist Masaru Ito. I might be wrong if he was Japanese, but the experiment he did where he would express like positive words or negative words to water, and then he tested the water and the water crystals, I believe. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but they'd
Yeah.
be like really the ones that were like more negative, the ones that got spoken to negatively would have these like really ugly formations. And then the positive ones would just have these really beautiful formations. So I
Like
think that
more
goes in
symmetrical.
like the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And so I think it's the same thing with when you're consuming a cow, for example, a cow that was slaughtered and had so much fear in it when it was killed, that's going to be transferred into your being as well. And it will affect you in a negative way.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've heard that there's a lot of adrenaline pumping through them when they get slaughtered, and that's still in there in the cuts of meat that go to the grocery store. And
Mhm.
not to mention the other hormones that they inject into the animals, the farmers do. So,
All the toxins and negative energy, not good for your body or spirit, in my opinion.
mhm.
I've heard the same thing with music too, like if which seems really interesting to me because like music is so subjective, like someone can find like a really hard rock song to be really uplifting and someone might not. Another person would find it really negative sounding to them, which is funny.
It would
So
affect them
maybe also
differently.
depends on, yeah, exactly. So I don't know how that would affect you as far as like something you consume.
Hmm. Interesting. So
Just a thought.
kind of like there's some people that can sort of guard themselves from negative energies better, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Because if it's the same vibrations, but they affect different people differently, then that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't talk about how you're vegetarian for like as long as I've been vegetarian.
Yep, I've been strictly vegetarian for about 20 years and mostly vegan
Mm-hmm. On and off
or
again. Yeah.
yeah, on and off. Do you want to tell us the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan?
See, so vegetarian is someone that abstains from eating animals, strictly like meat, like, and vegan would be someone that abstains from all animal products, like anything that comes from an animal,
No
like for
milk, no
example,
eggs.
dairy, eggs. Yeah, huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I don't include meat. I'm not meat. I don't include fish in my diet. I only say that because so many times we've gotten people ask after they know that we're vegetarian, they ask, oh, well, was fish okay? As if it's not meat, but it definitely is an animal, has eyes, sentient, has can feel pain.
Mhm.
And so, no, I'm not a pescatarian. That would be someone that eats fish. So you mentioned veganism. I would say I feel much better when I'm eating a vegan diet as opposed to a vegetarian diet. Like health wise, like I feel like dairy, maybe it wasn't like this like 100 or so years ago, but nowadays with all the toxins and and processes and antibiotics and hormones that are in milk. It's just so horrible for our bodies to eat dairy and eggs.
Mhm.
So I definitely feel better when I'm not eating those things. What about you?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like the China study, they found out that the casein in dairy was causing cancer in people. So it's another good reason to
Yeah.
avoid it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I feel the best when I'm eating like a raw vegan diet and I'm just eating like one big meal a day and fasting during the rest of the day, drinking lots of water.
So you were saying that you feel best when you're eating like a super unprocessed raw vegan diet, right?
Yeah, yep. And the fasting helps a lot too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, we'll have to talk about that later.
Mhm.
Well, what do you think about diets that are super limited to certain groups of foods, like a fruitarian diet
I
or a
feel like
ketogenic diet?
I feel like all of the different like restrictive diets, like you just have to be more and more educated the more you're restricting because you got to know exactly what nutrients are in which foods. Otherwise, you can become deficient in some vitamin or mineral that is real like vitally important to the body. So
Yeah.
uh, people that become vegetarian, they have to be more health conscious because everyone's like, oh, where do you get your protein? And it's like then you find out there's protein in everything, like two
Yeah.
large potatoes and you got your protein for the day. uh but then vegan, it's like, oh, now you're not getting your B12 and some other stuff, so then you start looking for supplements or places to find it, like in spirulina. And then if you're going to be fruitarian, it's even more so. You're like, where am I going to find my omega 3s if I'm just eating fruit? Like I got to get some avocado. But
Yeah.
it's just the more those restrictive diets, you just have to know a lot about nutrition to be able to pull them off and be healthy.
Hmm. That makes me think of that guy that ate potatoes, I think, for like a year. Is that right? You know the guy I'm
Mhm.
talking about?
Yeah,
So he survived for a whole year with a really limited food, like type of food. It was just potatoes, right?
yeah,
So
potatoes
do
have
you
a
think
lot in
he was
them.
like, yeah? Okay, so that's the key. Eating something that's like highly nutritious,
Mhm. Especially you got to
right?
get the skins to get a lot of the nutrition in potato, but they're not just starch like we're told often. They have
Yeah,
protein
they
and
get a
some
bad
fat
rap,
and
right?
minerals. Yeah. They are high carb, so if you're trying to go into ketosis, then they don't work. But they're great. They're potatoes are used a lot in Gerson therapy, which is a therapy that helps cancer patients go into remission with their cancer. So like potatoes are great. It just has to be done right.
Okay, so that's the key. You have to do it right. So there's like, you can be a vegan or vegetarian and be really unhealthy if you're eating like Skittles and chips that are like vegan. Um, you can be like have really bad health. So you have to, like you said, do it right. So
Mhm.
maybe whole foods, like eating food as processed as little as possible.
Mhm. Whole plant-based foods. The junk food, vegan and vegetarians, that's it's not good for them. It's nice in a way because they're like, I'm not killing animals now, so they're helping the earth
Yeah.
somewhat. But really, I don't know. With all the packaging and everything that goes along with junk food and the processing, it's not that great. But it's at least they're trying. They're just not as informed about the better choices.
Yeah. I love good vegan donut. Yum. But not healthy for me. There's a lot of good vegan junk food out there now. So I like if you look in the stores nowadays, there's like a lot of vegan options and like a bajillion different non-dairy milks. it's crazy. So there's a lot of options out there, but it's really easy to like fall into it and be like, oh, this is like healthy. They'll use like avocado oil, but it's still fried potato chips in avocado oil. It's still not good for you, right?
Yeah, still get the carcinogens and everything, right?
Yeah. That just got me thinking that we've raised 4 kids vegetarian. A lot of people think that's crazy that our kids were, first of all, created, like their little bodies grew from just vegetarian food into living beings, and they're still thriving, just eating a vegetarian diet, no meat at all, which blows people's minds. But it can be done, and it's pretty dang easy. No animals harmed in the making of their bodies.
What do you think about fake meats, veggie burgers, and veggie nuggets?
Um, well, I personally am not into them. I think they're really processed, and I feel like they can do more damage than good. But I think as a transition food, then I think they're awesome for people that need some kind of like meat texture, taste that they're used to. But then after a little while, I don't think it's necessary to have. So I personally don't like to eat a lot of it, but I am not against it.
You do a
Whatever.
lot of tofu mixed into different dishes, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, tofu is good. Um, yeah, it's a fun texture too, and it takes on like all the flavor that you add to it because it's like so bland to begin with. So you can make it into like Mexican or Asian or just anything, any taste that you want it to be. So that's a good replacement. And really just any like chopped up vegetables, I think makes a really good meat replacement. You just have to know your spices and play around with different spices.
Yeah, and that's fun. It's fun to play with spices. Cool. So what would be your advice to someone who said, I'm thinking about being vegetarian. What should I do?
Oh, geez. I've gotten that question so many times. For people that are like seriously wanting to become vegetarian, there's like 2 different ways you can go about it. And I think they could be both successful. There's like the whole cold turkey, like not eating any meat, just like from day one, and just eating fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, whatever. I think that's the ideal way, but some people can't do it as easily. So nowadays it seems like a lot of people are willing to try like a no meat Monday, or just gradually add more vegetables and less meat. So I would say if you want to go the easier way, but longer way, then add more plants to your diet and take away some meat little by little every day. But if you want to like get the most benefits right away, then just become vegetarian and vegan like from day one. And luckily, it's way easy nowadays with the internet to just get tons of replacements, ideas, recipes, support, and start your way to have a more healthy lifestyle, both physically and spiritually, as well as mentally, and just all around better health and feeling, adopting a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. I highly recommend it.
Cool. Well, this has been fun. We'll have to have you on again. We'll talk about some other topics.
Cool, exciting, always something to talk about.
Thanks for coming on. See
See
you
ya.
next time.